Welcome to National Pension Partners, where retirement planning meets peace of mind. Today, we're diving into the 412(e)(3 plan, also known as a fully insured pension plan. This isn't just any retirement plan. It's the gold standard for stability and guaranteed benefits. How does it work? Simple. It's funded exclusively by life insurance and annuity contracts. This means no market risks, no actuarial assumptions, just ironclad guarantees. Think of it like this. You're a small business owner who hates surprises. The 412(e)(3 plan gives you predictable, stable contributions every year. Your future benefits are backed by insurance contracts, so you know exactly what you're getting. No guesswork, no headaches. But there's more. These plans are designed to maximize your contributions and offer significant tax advantages. And with National Pension Partners, you're not just getting a plan, you're getting a team of experts, attorneys, CPAs, actuaries, all dedicated to making your retirement as secure as possible. We provide personalized consulting, ensuring that your plan is tailored to your specific needs. Best part, initial consultations and proposals are absolutely free. $0, zero commitment. So if you want a retirement plan that's as reliable as your morning coffee, head over to nationalpensions.com. With the 412(e)(3 plan, your future is in safe hands. Retirement planning never sounded so thrilling. Perfect for small business owners who like their finances as predictable as Monday mornings. Stable contributions, ironclad guarantees, and serious tax advantages. It's the trifecta of financial security. And with National Pension Partners, you get a team of brainiacs, attorneys, CPAs, actuaries, ensuring your retirement is as secure as Fort Knox. Oh, did we mention the free consultations? That's right. You get a personalized expert proposal with $0 down. So, if you want a retirement plan that's as reliable as your morning coffee, head over to nationalpensions.com. Because when it comes to your future, boring is the new exciting. Retirement planning never sounded so thrilling. For more details, check out National Pension Partners at nationalpensions.com. Retirement planning never sounded so thrilling.
It's Wednesday, September 4th, 2024, and a number of things are happening in the world, including a possible shakeup in the cabinet over in Ukraine. So Zelensky plans a cabinet shakeup as Russia continues their attacks on Ukraine. So the Ukraine's foreign minister tenders his resignation ahead of that expected cabinet reshuffle. So it does look like that is something that is going on, and maybe we're going to have some cabinet reshuffles in that area. And it looks like the Middle East crisis polio vaccinations in Gaza are beating their goals, according to the WHO. So definitely that's something else that we're seeing in the news, as there is great progress as the Gaza war pauses allow polio vaccinations for kids. So definitely that's something else that we're seeing in the news as well. And deregulation and dishonesty led to a deadly Greenfield fire, according to an inquiry, and that's over there in the UK. And it looks like the victims were failed by calculated greed, according to what the families said, and all along those lines. And like I said, in terms of Russia and the Ukraine, it looks like Russia's strike kills more than 50 in Ukraine, according to Zelensky, and Russian missile strike on Ukraine military college kills dozens. And that is something that we're seeing as well, and that was in Kyiv. And I know we have a reporter that comes out of Kyiv. He was on the show yesterday, and we're going to check on him on Friday. So that's the next time that we'll have the Ukraine-Russia-China show, and all along those lines. So definitely is a lot going on in that area, as a Russia air attack on Ukraine Lviv kills 7 people. So that's something else that we're seeing. So like I said, that war is definitely continuing, and all along those lines. And Biden is blasted for pressuring Netanyahu, not Hamas terrorists, following the murder of Jewish hostages. So definitely looks like mediators are pushing to bridge the gaps in the Gaza ceasefire plan, according to officials over there. And Israel's Netanyahu faces a huge wave of anger over the handling of the war with Hamas, including some anger within his own country and all along those lines. And after Putin dodges an arrest in Mongolia, the Kremlin is saying no one can hold Russia back. So Russia's Putin attended a welcome ceremony in Mongolia, and Mongolia ignored the ICC demands to arrest Putin during a state visit. So definitely that's something else that we're seeing as well. And in sad news, 6 children are among the 12 dead in the Channel as a crowded boat is ripped open, and at least 12 migrants, because yes, the migrant issue can even impact things over in the UK as well, are dead after a vessel capsized in the channels over in that area. And Brazil president says the world doesn't have to put up with Elon Musk's far-right ideologies just because he's rich. So definitely it looks like there's a no X in Brazil, and no problem is what the Brazilians say. So Brazil bans X, adding to that global social media censorship. And in Asia, the Pope is urging Indonesia to live up to promise of harmony in diversity. So Pope Francis, in a Muslim-majority Indonesia, warns against religious extremism. So definitely the Pope invited Indonesian clergy to bear witness to the resurrection. So definitely that's something else that we're seeing as Pope Francis greeted orphans and refugees in Indonesia. So a lot is going on in there. And China is hosting African leaders to rekindle the Belt and Road outreach. So debt woes and funding needs in focus as China is hosting African leaders. So China kicks off a major African summit as it seeks to woo leaders amid the pressure from the West. So it does look like China is trying to appeal to the folks over there in the African continent. And it looks like the Houthis have struck 2 more crude tankers in the Red Sea, and another tanker continues to burn. And that was some news from yesterday and all along those lines. So definitely lots going on in the world as always. Let me get to some of the U.S. things, and then I'll bring in Rick, maybe Nick, and see who else is around as well. But definitely a lot's happening even in the good old United States. A Chicago man was charged in a random shooting death of 4 sleeping transit passengers. So definitely that's something else going on, as a suspect was charged in a shooting that killed 4 sleeping people on the CTA Blue Line train over there in Chicago. And Tennessee's transgender care ban is challenged by dozens of Republicans. So Elliot Page and others support trans rights in a Supreme Court challenge of the Tennessee law. And the Democrats are urging the Supreme Court to strike down the Tennessee gender-affirming care ban. So definitely that's going to be in the news as well. And an Oregon hospital was hit with a $303 million lawsuit after a nurse was accused of replacing fentanyl with tap water. So definitely that's something else going on. So Asante was hit with a $303 million lawsuit from a drug diversion case. I didn't think that fentanyl and tap water were that similar, but when I get my lawyer back on here, I'm going to ask him and all in that space, because Nick might have some thoughts about that. And the judge has denied Trump's request to move the criminal case to federal court. So Trump lost a long shot bid to challenge his hush money conviction in federal court. So definitely a federal judge denied Trump's bid to forestall the September 8th sentencing on the guilty verdict in the Bragg case. So it does look like that whole verdict will be coming out, and we'll see what goes on in that way and all along those lines. And it looks like the U.S. has charged Hamas leadership over the October 7th attack on Israel. So definitely that's something else going on, as well as the Department of Justice has charged one of the Hamas leaders in that October 7th attack from last year and everything. So definitely that's something we're going to see. And, the weather is oftentimes in the news right now. It's a very pleasant 70-something degrees here in Durham, North Carolina. But there are tropical disturbances in Atlantic that are keeping hurricane forecasters busy and everything. So it looks like there are a few storms out there. It should be 3. So we'll see if they impact our weather here on the East Coast and all along those lines. And like I said yesterday, Governor Newsom in California has declared a state of emergency in the Rancho Palos Verdes after additional power shutoffs and all along those lines. So definitely that's something else going on as well. And there are some folks, including over there at NPR, that are saying stop stressing about the polls. watch for these indicators, and they've got some indicators that they want us to pay attention to in the sense of how to see what's going on in the race and all along those lines. So definitely be interesting to see what their indicators are as opposed to the polls, because I know that Rick is not a big fan of polls and all in that space. So definitely looks like there's some others that aren't either. So definitely there's a whole idea that we need to stop worrying about that and all along those lines. But the polls apparently are showing two things. Vice President Harris is performing better than President Biden, which just before he dropped out of the race, she's gaining average anywhere from 4 to 6 points in swing state polls, boosting her in the big 7 swing states of Michigan, Wisconsin, and Pennsylvania in the so-called blue wall, and has drawn support even in the Sun Belt states of North Carolina and Georgia in the east, and Arizona and Nevada out west. And they're saying that the race is very close, and that's not likely going to change. So that's everything that's what folks are talking about. And of course, there's a 7 to 8 point potential swing in good surveys. And so those are asking about her momentum and whether it can hold steady and all along those lines. So that's something else that people are paying attention to, is the momentum. And of course, the first debate, which is coming up very shortly, will likely have a big audience, and folks will be watching to see how that goes and all along those lines. So these are some of the things and everything. And of course, one of the big ones is who has the better turnout operation. So the campaigns have spent more than $1 billion in ads already and have knocked on millions of dollars to talk with people about who they might prefer and trying to convince them to vote for their candidate. But now after Labor Day is when it becomes all about mobilization. So I do know even here in Durham, there's a lot of folks that are being motivated and everything. And of course, the economy and other things are issues that are motivating voters. And we'll find out if they motivate them enough to get out to the polls and all along those lines. So those are some of the factors that they are thinking could impact a number of things in that particular NPR article and all in that space. And like I said earlier, Trump is back on the campaign trail as Harris hits the New Hampshire area. Harris is visiting New Hampshire away from the bigger swing states to tout her economic agenda. So definitely there's a lot going on in that space and all along those lines. And an 11-year-old in Minden is charged in the killing of their 82-year-old ex-mayor, or the killing of an 82-year-old ex-mayor and his daughter. So 11-year-old boy charged with killing a former Louisiana city mayor, his daughter. And definitely that's something else that we're seeing in the news as well. So like I said, we're getting ready to get back into some interesting discussions, including maybe about school safety, because apparently 4 Las Vegas teens pleaded guilty in classmates' deadly beating as part of a plea deal, and all in that space. And if you're wondering about some political statesmen staging and everything, John McCain's son has declared Trump's appearance as Arlington as a violation to turn the cemetery into a campaign backdrop and all along those lines. So like I said, I'm going to bring in Rick Rosner, and I'm going to bring in Jacoby, and I'm going to bring in Sasha, and I'll bring in others. And by the way, I guess the question I've got is, how close does fentanyl look to tap water? Because when I saw that, I'm going like, I don't think that they look all that similar, but there is a $303 million suit, and maybe Nick will jump on and see if that's a significant suit and everything. But I didn't think fentanyl looked that much, and I have never taken fentanyl, so I don't know what it looks like, but I couldn't see it really looking like tap water.
So Kamala Harris has proposed a $50,000 tax exemption for small business startups. So the right likes to accuse her of being a communist. That's the opposite of communism. Also, the Heritage Foundation, these are guys that are the authors of Project 2025, Trump's platform. Every year they do a thing called the Economic Freedom Index, which shows how capitalistic every nation in the world is. And according to the Heritage Foundation, and it's been this way for years, the U.S. is the most capitalistic nation with a population of more than 90 million, the most capitalistic large nation in the world. We are not turning communist. Kamala Harris is not going to make America communist.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Hey, Sasha, just really quickly, because I mentioned it in one of the other stories and everything, but there is talk of and I know there have been shakeups before, but a talk of a major shakeup in the Ukrainian government and everything. What kind of impact will that have on the war, if any? Because I did see that there was talk of a major shakeup in his cabinet.
Well, the real impact on war in Ukraine is Western help, especially with weapons. That was much more important than anything else. And positionally, Ukraine is placed very, very well for achieving victory over Russia. And it all depends whether it will be continuation of help. If not, they will probably win anyway, but it will take much longer time. There is no way how Russia can defeat Ukraine. There will be it will be type of like a Stalingrad battle, where there will be a battle for every building, for every basement. It's just a Russian army is not in a position to do it. There is no motivation. They don't understand the purpose of that war. And Ukrainians are much more skillful fighters, and they're very adaptable to new technology. And especially now that Ukraine has its own ballistic missiles that can reach 500 to 700 kilometers, it means that they can now start send these missiles to Moscow, right to Kremlin. They have capacity of doing that, and they will not stop from doing that, because Russia is continuing to bombard Ukrainian cities such as Kyiv and killing a lot of people now. So I believe that Ukrainian must do exactly the same and even more ferociously than does Russia.
Yeah, that makes sense. Hey, Nick, I see you're here with us, and I don't know your thoughts about this big medical lawsuit, so I'll get to that in a second. But before I get to that, apparently the Pope is urging Indonesia to live up to its promise of harmony in diversity, because he's over there in the Muslim majority Indonesia, and he's warning against religious extremism. And we've definitely seen religious extremism through various parts of the world. Some would even say even here in the U.S. and everything. But what is your take on this notion? And does the Pope have any sort of pull in the world that he can actually get people to fight against this? Because he's asking folks to bear witness to the resurrection. And of course, he went and met with orphans and refugees in that part of the world.
Well, I mean, obviously he has a big say because he's got a big following, Mark. So, and he does say good things. So he's trying to tone down the rhetoric and the problems, which is the problem we're seeing with Ukraine and Russia right now. It's a tone up, but still, when I look at Ukraine and Russia, Sasha, I go, is the Kursk gambit going to be pulled off? Because is it going to work? Because the thing is, the minute they invade Russian territory, it becomes no more fun for the Russians anymore. That they have to consider the fact that this is a two-way street as opposed to a one-way street, which has been going on for so long. So you think the Kursk, I call it the Kursk gambit because they invaded Russian territory. Do you think that's going to work against the Russians? What's your thought?
You know what, Ukrainians, their mentality is they're fun-loving people. They really love to have fun. And now Russians, to them, look like a lot of fun and a lot of things to get even. And it's like when you say, it's a payback time, baby. So it's now payback time. So Russians were trying to insulate their people and their population as there is no war, it's just an operation, little things happening here and there. But now with Kursk, you know what's happening now? That a lot of partners of Russia on so-called ODKB organization, which includes Russia, and by the way, Ukraine until recently, of course, Armenia, Kyrgyzstan, Uzbekistan, and a few other countries in that region. So that was Russian equivalent of NATO. So if one is attacked, the others are supporting them. Well, Russians have discredited themselves grossly by they are not able to defend their own territory. How they can help any country in this organization if they are helpless defending their own territory? As a result, a few things are now happening. Armenia announced now that they are no longer want to be a member of this organization. They're out. Kyrgyzia, Russia is especially upset with them because according to latest agreement between China, Kyrgyzia, and Uzbekistan, China is building through all these territories a railway that is eventually going to reach Europe. And believe it or not, Russia has a different standard for railway. It's a wider way between rails, and the European way is a more narrow one. So they're building it on European standards, not Russia. So Russia now feels that it's been betrayed by China and by Kyrgyzia and by Uzbekistan, that they're now building a railway not by Russian standards. So a lot of nations in this area, they now see really what Russia is standing for. It cannot defend itself. And they have not even plans how and when to do it.
Hey, Sasha, and along those same lines and everything, as I mentioned earlier in the news report, and there is this push to get some of the African nations to meet with China. And I know that we're not the only one with debt woes and issues with our debt. Apparently, China has got some as well. And of course, many of the African nations do also. So what is the thoughts around this whole Belt and Road initiative as they're trying to rekindle it and everything? And is this going to be a partnership that is going to be beneficial to the African nations as well as to China? And how will that play in China's world status and everything? So I just want to update.
We'll go to Rick, then we'll go to that.
I'm much less interested in African issues. So if anybody would like to comment.
Rick had a comment maybe on something.
Well, just the Kursk incursion. Ukraine occupies about 400 square miles, but unfortunately, Russia occupies about 42,000 square miles of Ukraine. So it's 1% of what Russia has taken.
That's what I saw.
And then what?
I don't know. You tell me. You're the expert. Can they occupy? Can they keep grabbing more territory, or are they happy just having 400 square miles? Can they push Russia back along the 800-mile eastern front?
I don't think that Ukrainians are going to push very hard inside Russia, but to east and northwest, which means Belgorod, Bryansk, and few other oblasts, so-called, they can push. But I think right now they're trying to consolidate to make sure that they're well digged in, and they are trying to hold on to this area as long as possible and make Russia pay as high as possible price if they ever want to get back this territory, to pay as high, the highest possible price.
Hey, Sasha, you said earlier and just a minute ago that you weren't all that interested in what's going on in Africa, but there are 44 countries in Europe and there are 54 in Africa and everything. So it seems to me that Africa has just as much of an interest as the world, as a lot of the other parts of the world do as well, because some of those are some very prominent countries like Nigeria, Kenya, South Africa, and a number of others as well. So, and they have some of their own conflicts also, and some that have been going on even longer than Ukraine and Russia. So what do you say to those folks that are watching, might be interested in some of those African countries, even though you might have interest?
These numbers that you just quoted means nothing. It's not quantity, it's a quality. If you compare quality of people in Europe to those in Africa, and the meaning for civilization of what's happening in Europe compared to what's happening in Africa, all these numbers mean nothing.
There were some that would argue against you on that, because there were some that would say that Africa is actually the cradle of civilization and everything along those lines, and that Africa has actually been stronger in terms of its even modern day philosophy. Like I said, Nigeria is seen as a world power, as is Kenya, as is a number of other countries, including South Africa and Zimbabwe, and they have different political viewpoints. Some of them are Muslim, some of them are Christian, some of them are a number of other things. So yes, you have a very Eurocentric point of view, as do some others on this network as well. But I would say that that is not necessarily the view of everybody in the world.
Well, everybody is entitled to his own opinion or hers. And my opinion is that there is a transatlantic Western civilization, which includes US, Canada, and most Western European countries. And then there is China, and then there is the rest of the world. Okay, so if you're interested in those issues in the rest of the world, okay, sure, why not?
So Africa's the only continent where people are still banging and making babies. 1/4 of the world's nations are losing population. We're doing social media, we're watching TV, we're depressed, we're not making kids, we're not having sex. Africa is still making a lot of kids. In 30 years, 3/4 of the world's countries will have declining populations, and the remaining 1/4 will be in Africa. So Africa will become increasingly important because they will have an increasing proportion of the world's population.
Agreed. Jacoby, you had something you wanted to add to the conversation?
Also, Africa is one of the nations where a lot of investments going into it, because it is still one of the continents where we rob the most from all the different elements, all the different resources we can think about, from diamonds to everything else. That's where we rob from. So to say that we shouldn't worry about it because it's not in Europe is it's wrong completely.
Yeah.
Also, you'll see more money going to Africa in the next few decades because labor's cheaper there. We saw a bunch of industry getting moved over to China in the past couple of decades because it was cheap to hire labor in China. Africa's where the people are and where you can hire them for cheap. It turns out that AI, it requires a huge number of humans coding to teach AI for its learning sets. A lot of those people are working in Africa because they don't have to be paid as much.
Well, and there's another part of the world that's important as well, which is Latin America, which has got like some 33 countries, Latin America and the Caribbean, so they kind of get bundled together and everything. But even Brazil's president, as a very large country, said that we don't have to put up with Elon Musk, a far-right ideology, just because he's rich and everything. So I just wondering y'all thoughts about that, because speaking of social media, apparently he's still being blocked in.
He's going batshit, Elon Musk. In the past couple of days, he's put up Tucker Carlson's interviewing of a guy who's a total frickin' Holocaust denier. And Elon Musk is pumping Tucker Carlson and this Holocaust denial bullshit.
Also, I mean, I just do not understand I guess, other than the machismo, masculinity thing around Trump, because this ties to Elon Musk, which Elon Musk is one of his biggest backers. And Trump, I think it was earlier this year, talked about how he was against electric cars and didn't care about electric cars and everything else. And then Elon Musk gave him money. And then Trump on stage said, I have to be for electric cars now because Elon Musk gave me money. And Elon Musk just posted or retweeted another misogynist thing where he's talking about how only alpha males should vote.
Because alpha males should, because they're the only ones who have the male power to not have their opinions be influenced by fear. Everybody else is a pussy, and they shouldn't vote.
And so, if you think about how Trump changed his position so quickly on EVs because he got money from Elon Musk, and now you have the worst ticket for women ever to be now the head of the ticket with now Elon Musk feeding craziness to Trump. You have JD Vance, talking about how not only the cat ladies, but he's discombobulated why any teacher without kids can teach other kids. This is dumb. And then you have, of course, Trump and his rape situation. Now you have RFK and his rape situation. It's just,
we got some very interesting things going on in other parts of the world, because apparently in Venezuela, and I know that Nick is just a big fan of Venezuela and everything, but they're trying to have an election, so they have managed to move we talked about the Pope earlier, an entire holiday, because Maduro has declared that Christmas is going to start in October, because apparently this is his way of cracking down on dissent. So he's declared that Christmas is going to begin in October. Last time I checked, Christmas was always in December, but he has moved the holiday after the disputed election. So he's going to move Christmas to October, like I think even before Halloween and everything. So how did this even work, that you're able to move a holiday that is known worldwide to be in December to a whole other month?
It's just crazy town. It's just the whole world. The COVID ate our brains, and now we're dumb world.
You can't blame it on COVID. I mean, you got RFK that was speaking as dumbness before COVID.
Well, yeah, a worm ate his brain.
But Sasha, one of his other favorite peoples is Telegram, and apparently Telegram was first in the news in France. Now it's in South Korea, because apparently there is a deep fake porn scandal, and Telegram is apologizing to South Korea and everything, because a South Korean teenager was detained over deep fake sexual images. So I know that you said that Telegram is used by the terrorists, but also some in the porn industry as well. So they had to apologize, Telegram did, because they had some sort of deep fake porn going on that a teenager in South Korea decided to launch and everything. So what's going on?
There's an explosion of AI porn. I've been tracking this because it's interesting, and also because I like naked ladies. And there's a site that lists used to list like the top 20 AI porn sites. Now it's the top 100. And a lot of it is like super corrosive and bad. Like there's like one site that's devoted specifically to putting celebrity heads on naked bodies. Strip down your favorite, stars. It's creepy, and it turns everybody into a worse perv than they already were.
Oh, that's great to know that our media is moving forward. Yeah, Sasha.
I've just looked at Elon Musk already removed this post with praising interview of Tucker Carlson.
Good. I mean, he should, because that's
4 hours ago, exactly. And now, what's happened now? We live, as we just discussed all the time, in very turbulent world with many wars being fought, and a lot of terrorists. A lot of people are dying because of either wars or terrorism or other causes. And I think it's about time to evaluate, or reevaluate rather, I would say, the concept of freedom of speech. Where I'm going with that, the first responsibility of any government is to protect its citizens. That's number one by far. And then somewhere very distant comes freedom of speech and many other stuff that in some countries it's being completely ignored. In some countries it's believed that this is the most important thing, what there is to it, or so on. Now, the sources as, let's see, X, the former Twitter. Not only the moderation is absent there, but actually the owner himself is becoming the most ridiculous and proponent of all extremist views. So the hopes that Twitter will be moderating itself are very slim, if any. So therefore, the governments, and starting with Brazil, but I'm pretty sure many will follow it, they will simply ban this Twitter, and especially as it was purchased with Russian money. So who needs this Russian propaganda when, by the way, Biden today accused openly Russia for helping Trump and Republicans to get the power in upcoming election. So I wouldn't be surprised if Twitter will be banned in many more countries. Speaking about Telegram, that's another thing, is that in some areas, such as, for example, India, Iran, Brazil, Russia, it's the most and probably the only real social medium how they communicate with themselves. For example, Russian army that is killing Ukrainians, they are communicating only through Telegram. So they're even giving orders to shoot by the Telegram because their army devices, they're very often not even working there. So Telegram, that something works. So when you feel that your relatives, for example, or friends are being killed by people who are using Telegram as their prime way of communicating, when Hamas, they are communicating only through Telegram, and the efforts of Durov to invent and use the cryptocurrency that by the name TON, which will allow, for example, Russians and India and China and others conduct their trade through that cryptocurrency. And eventually, if more countries will join BRICS, such as Turkey, Iran, Argentina, I think it's talking about joining. So that will be seriously undermining US dollars. And this $35 trillion, what is the debt of US now, will become very quickly $70 trillion and then $255 trillion. That's what BRICS is trying to do.
Bankrupt America. Go on.
When Musk bought Twitter 2 years ago, he paid $44 billion for it, and he's mismanaged it and filled it with right-wing garbage, and its current value is likely less than $12 billion. It's lost about 3/4 of its value.
Yeah, and he's doing everything he can to try to make money. Now, currently, we do not broadcast on X or Twitter. And part of the reason why is they want to charge us fees. All the other networks we go through, except for Roku and Amazon. The Roku actually charges us a fee to be on the Roku television network. But I didn't have any problem with paying the fee through Twitter or Twitch, whatever it was. I had a problem that none of our producers gave a rat's rear about being on Twitter.
Because Twitter's a swamp now. But the worse it gets, now Musk isn't going to sell before the election because he wants to push his bullshit all the way through the election. But maybe after the election, he's wrecked it and driven down the value to the point where people are like urging Mark Cuban, who's a smart billionaire.
He's a smart billionaire, right? I agree.
To swoop in there and pick it up for like $10 billion and then make it like a decent business and a decent place to go again.
Yeah, see, the problem is that we have 40 people that produce television shows for the Pod TV network. Of the 40, not one has complained and said, "Why aren't we on Twitter?" Not one. And it's not that expensive to be on. What'd you say? It was like $96 a year or something like that.
$8 a month, 96.
$8 a month.
Plus, I think you pay for a year up front. It's like maybe 60. It's nothing.
It has nothing to do with the money. It has to do with the demand. Can you imagine? All of our producers don't care about Twitter or X. Not one of them. It just shows you. In other words, in their brains, it's not worth $8 a month. you know.
Yeah,
So
because
I'm
you're
kinda
up
like,
because you're right there next to PragerU and Donald Trump assassination bobblehead dolls. Like no decent business is advertising on Twitter anymore. You're in there with a
well,
bunch of garbage.
It was
Well,
yeah,
there's
people
also
punching
that.
garbage and
Plus,
everything.
there's not really much of a return in terms of actually getting money, getting paid back from doing videos or any type of marketing on Twitter. On other avenues like YouTube to Twitch to
TikTok.
Facebook, TikTok, so on and so forth, there's a good kickback if you're able to grow. Twitter, you don't grow. You top out. You don't get paid enough back from Twitter to even make that $8 a month.
I could never figure Twitter out. Like on LinkedIn has been the best, at least for me. I got like 12,000 people on LinkedIn, and some of our producers have 30,000 people on LinkedIn. And so LinkedIn also has been great throughout our entire 3.5 years we've been doing this. They haven't thrown us off except once because we had somebody came in and we got hacked, and they threw off the show that got hacked. So what can I say? But LinkedIn is great. And then Facebook is plus minus. There's good and bad about Facebook. But X, I can tell you, I've just never been able to figure out Twitter. And no one complains. It's almost like they just don't care about
So
Twitter.
Twitter has never had as many users as Facebook, because Twitter, you have to sit there and you have to compose messages in words, and that's a lot of work. A lot of people don't want to do that. And right now, Musk is advertising that it's at about 110 million active users, which is nothing.
But doesn't
Right.
Facebook also have multiple channels? Because, like I said, Facebook, if I remember correctly, correct me if I'm wrong, isn't Facebook own Instagram, and Instagram is a major player as well and everything. But I know that Instagram got bought. I thought it was by Facebook, but I'm trying to remember and everything. But definitely they are a major player as well. And a lot of people post their stuff, whether it's family stuff or whether it's business stuff, on Instagram. Because I've seen quite a few people using Instagram as a tool.
Yeah, Facebook owns Instagram and the other, what's it called now? Their other social media, Threads, which is the direct Twitter competitor.
Right.
There's
Threads,
also Blue Sky.
everybody's
Blue Sky
telling
owned by
me
the
to
guy
move to Threads. It's a
who
lot
did
nicer
take
over there.
Yeah, we do have a following on Twitch, but I can't tell you why. That's another network I've not been able to figure out, or distribution site. But sometimes we'll go pull demographics, and we got 10, 30, 40,000 people watching us on Twitch. And I go, I don't even watch Twitch, but I'm not even sure how Twitch works.
So
But-
Twitch is, and the reason you don't watch Twitch is because you're old. Twitch is actually a young man's game. Twitch is
What?
where gamers are. That is where it has roughly about 90 million plus on there and steadily growing. That's
Okay.
if you
All
want
right.
to.
So when I see 30 or 40,000, literally 30 or 40,000 will watch one of our shows on Twitch. And I'm going, what are they doing and why and how are we getting there? It is a distribution point for us, but I can't figure out how you grow your network on Twitch. I've never been able to figure out Twitch to Toby. Except we do get
Twitch, you got to do differently than what we're doing right now. Not a whole lot of people you're not going to gain ground in the gamer world, doing world politics.
Yeah, world politics, isn't that a game?
We probably have to put some bobbleheads on Sasha and Nick in order to get some of the
bobblehead.
Twitch and everything. But I did have a question for you really quickly, Nick, and changing the topic. But what is our thoughts around, because we've talked about medicine and even medicine in the world and everything, but I'm still trying to figure out this Oregon hospital that got hit with a $303 million
Oh, the fentanyl
after
thing. Okay.
the fentanyl with tap water.
I have taken fentanyl, okay, but see, here's what happens. When I had a colonoscopy, the doctor came up to me and I'm like half drugged. Is it okay if you take fentanyl? I said, sure. Why would I care? I mean, they're the doctors. They know what they're doing. I don't know what I'm doing. I'm just a stupid patient. So apparently they gave me fentanyl. I don't know if I felt it or not.
I've got a colonoscopy coming up in 2 weeks, and I'm sure they'll give me fentanyl. The last time, it didn't put me all the way to, it's supposed to make it so you don't remember. I remember.
Right.
I sat
I
there
remember
and
too.
watched. I watched TV. I watched the camera go up my butt, and so it was.
Yeah, and so they give you fentanyl for your colonoscopy. Okay, now what probably happened, Mark, is this lady thought fentanyl is bad, so I'm going to substitute water in for it, which means she had to be, or he, certified registered nurse anesthesiologist or an anesthesiologist at some point in time. Now, 300 million is typical lawyer, way out of proportion for whatever the potential damages were done to the individual patients, if any. You've got to still prove. So what they do when they say, I'm suing you for 300, they're just making numbers up and throwing it so they can get attention from the press, Mark, and get attention from the client. Hey, look, I can sue you and put you out of business because you substitute water for fentanyl. But when you're defending a case, you're going like, okay, show me the damage. Who got damaged? And they'll look around, nobody. Okay, case closed. And so you see cases like that. They'll be filed by plaintiff's attorneys, and they'll be drummed out of court by a good defensive lawyer.
Sounds like
so basically all it is, it's much ado about nothing. It was the same thing we saw in the Neiman case versus Magnus Carlsen and chess. Oh, we're going to sue you for 100 million. I don't know if he collected it.
Well, isn't it a reason to throw crazy numbers out just to get like 10 grand or 25 grand and go away?
Yeah, that's it. They're looking for a settlement. I mean, the thing is, I'm not sure if it has any meritorious value whatsoever against the hospital. And I kind of know the game. We're going to sue the hospital because they're in a deep pocket under,
Well, speaking of those kind of games, apparently Trump was hoping, and we've got this race going on with the presidency, but he was hoping to have a bid to challenge the hush money conviction in the federal court, but it looks like that's not going to happen. So maybe he is going to get sentenced on the 18th, which will be about 2 weeks from now and everything. So the debate. So is there any possibility that we're actually going to see a conviction and a sentencing taking place in 2 weeks?
He's got like 3 more legal moves to do. None of them will work. Here's the headline on Drudge right now. The main headline. Drudge used to be conservative. Now it's pretty middle of the road. Republicans secretly want Trump to lose. Better off with Kamala. So that's a sensational headline, but the idea is the Republicans keep getting spanked electorally. And some reform-minded Republicans, the Republicans have only won the popular vote for president once since 1988. So some Republicans are like, we have to change what we stand for so people will vote for us. So some are, according to this article, are saying we need to lose badly now to teach us a lesson so we can reform the party. Does it ever happen? You hear the same stuff every time they lose. Will it ever work? I don't know.
No, it's not going to happen. The grand old party is going to be the grand old party, and Trump is going to make his stand in this election. And the election is not going to be decided on the polls. I agree with you, Rick. It's not. It's going to be decided by those states that are those borderline states like Ohio, Pennsylvania, Arizona, Georgia, Michigan, and it's going to be decided on the independent vote there. You don't have to look at the polls. You just need to look at certain states because we know Texas is going to go Trump. We know California is going to go Kamala Harris. We know New York is going to go Kamala Harris. We really don't know about Florida, but Florida leans toward Trump. So the big states balance each other out. So the deciding states are going to be these crazy states like Pennsylvania, Ohio, Michigan. They're the purple states. Georgia, maybe even North Carolina and Arizona. And so who leads in the polls in those?
Another interesting piece, though, and the independents, yes, are going to be a big factor, and that's where the swing of the vote is. But again, and I'll reiterate it again here, the women are going to decide this ballot.
They can always decide the battle.
And I mean, if you look in Florida, the problem that they're going to have in Florida right now, which is why Trump is flip-flopping and why Kamala Harris is in the middle of starting her bus tour there, or one bus tour there, is the abortion factor. That's on the ballot in Florida. That's what actually stopped the red wave that was supposed to come through ever since the overturning of Roe v. Wade. the Democrats have outperformed where they were because of that ballot initiative being on the ballot. So women right now are shifting the ballot, and it's tough for Trump. And again, as we talked about earlier, with Elon Musk saying only alpha males should vote, and he being Trump's one of the top donors, and we already know him flip-flopping as quickly as he can because he's so transactional. We also know last week how, and this is why that the Republican campaign are trying their best in Pennsylvania to push Kamala Harris as a flip-flopper using something from 2019 in terms of fracking. However, that is nullified by Trump going back and forth in a 48-hour period over 4 different actual ways of going, I'm for abortion, I'm going to vote, I'm against abortion. So his flip-flopping has nullified that actual can't, and that's why that can't stick. And so the women's vote right now is huge.
But that's not the most dangerous demographic. The dangerous demographic is not the women, Jacoby. It's young people. See, Kamala Harris appeals to young people because she's young.
Yeah.
I hate to say it, Donald, you are old. I mean, like it or not, you're in a different generation, a different world. And Kamala appeals to younger people, and that is a huge demographic. It's bigger than the baby boomers. It's the biggest problem the Republicans
have. Women voted a higher rate than men. Women are about 52% of the electorate. In 2020, 68.5 million women voted versus 65 million men.
Yeah, that's a big part of the
market. And I would like your friend
Elon Musk. I know that Sasha has got his investment show coming up in about 2 hours and everything. But one of the things that come up that it seems to be a good point for Vice President Harris and everything is the fact that they are saying that gas prices are going down, and it looks like they're going to be down even as we head into the election. So how is that going to play? Because that is a good economic point.
It's horrible. It's horrible with gas prices going down, inflation going down. This is not good for the Republican Party. So somewhere along the line, we need to convince the Federal Reserve to raise interest rates once again. And so,
Nick, you're right.
What am I supposed to say? Mark, if you have a good economy and people are doing well or they feel they're doing well, this is really, really bad going into the election cycle. So United States is in deep trouble right now. I would agree.
But I mean, as things go down, it definitely blunts the argument of the Republican Party. They had their only argument. They put all eggs in their basket that Joe Biden was old. It worked. People believed it. People bought into that. And once Joe Biden pulled out, now those same eggs that they threw uphill and hit Joe Biden with are rolling right back down to hit Trump, because now everybody's saying, okay, well, Trump is old. And now the GOP are having to fight off the old yellings or the old talking point that they put out there. But then they were like, okay, well, we can use the economy and immigration. Well, that's being blunted because you have the economic measures coming down and the fact that they blocked that immigration bill, which is starting to really capture headlines. And then everything else that Trump does is just idiotic. And people are really like, okay, now you're upsetting veterans by doing all this stuff at Arlington. And now people are starting to listen to, okay, well, did he really disrespect? So all that stuff is now, again, I'll go back to saying J.D. Vance was the greatest pick for the Democrats, because once J.D. Vance started saying dumb stuff and Biden got out of the race, people started listening to Trump and finally realized Trump says some dumb stuff and he's really insulting, and all this hatred is coming right back out.
Hey, Toby, just really quickly along those same lines. Now, there are sometimes on the political landscape that I don't understand. And like I said, I have worked a couple political campaigns, but not lots of them and everything. But why is Vice President Harris in New Hampshire? That's not even a swing state. So I'm still trying to figure out the logic of going to New Hampshire, because that doesn't make sense.
Because it was a swing state. When Biden was in, New Hampshire was purple. Kamala Harris is now in. New Hampshire swung back. Trump, it is now where because it was swinging Trump's way. Trump didn't invest any money or any financing in there. Trump also he mismanaged everything because they banked everything on Biden being in the race. So now what Kamala Harris is doing is locking up support there. She's actually running a very tactical campaign. She's locking up support there. Trump is pulling support from New Hampshire. So now you have Trump being seen in retreat, being on the defensive. Now you're on the offensive and can run ads saying, well, Trump knows that he's going to lose, or Trump has mismanaged this. And now you can do the same thing in Pittsburgh, which is a huge swing state, because Trump is saying, hey, I got to pull all these people from here because I messed up. How can you be the president if you really overcompensate? So it's a smart tactical move. So now she can go to these other places that were also swing states.
And she can sound like a Republican. This latest proposal, a $50,000 tax exemption for small business startups, that sounds like a Republican proposal.
It does. It's actually a good idea because startups have such a tough pull. So to give them a $50,000, but I think the real reason she went to New Hampshire is she's trying new stuff, and New Hampshire is a small state, so if she stumbles, she doesn't stumble too bad. And one was what you just said, Rick, the $50,000 tax exemption for startups, which is a good idea because they struggle so much trying to get out of the box. To hammer them with taxes, they're struggling even further. So I think they're certainly, she's come out with some what I call innovative tax policies, which the Republicans haven't come up with anything. And it's really bothersome to see that they have no economic plan.
Plus, Harris can out-rally Trump. She's 20 years younger than
yeah, but you don't have to be that bright to outmaneuver a guy who has.
No, I'm just saying that she can. There's 9 weeks left, so she can get out. She can be on the road every freaking day. She can sleep after the election. Trump.
Yeah, but he's got an IQ of 85. Come on, Rick. Let's get real. You got 100 more points on this guy, and after listening to him for some years, I would have to agree. I used to meet people, and I used to be able to determine what their IQs were just by meeting them. And I was going, you know what? This guy probably has an IQ of 85. I don't think he would break 100 on a Wechsler test at all, not even having a chance. Or he would struggle to get to 100 if he could get there.
Did you hear what his latest thing he said at the speech was? I think this was either yesterday or the day before, where he talked about people were complaining. Well, I will say the most beautiful things, and I will say about this and say about that, and I'm doing a thing called weaving, and people, these scholars would say that I've put together the most beautiful words, and the news would say I'm rambling. They don't understand how I'm putting together these things and weaving. It was idiotic.
Well, one component of IQ is conscientiousness. Einstein called it Sitzfleisch, which is the ability to sit your ass down and do the work. And Trump is freaking lazy and distractible. So I think his IQ is higher than that, maybe 120. But in practical terms, it's lower because he's lazy and that doesn't want to, all the reports the first time he was president had to be one page to even have a chance, and have lots of pictures to even have a chance he'd glance at it.
Yeah, really quickly, Sasha had a point he wanted to make.
I'm very surprised by Trump's complacency running this campaign, because for Kamala, she might win, she might lose. Maybe she will try it again in this case 4 years later. For Trump, is a life or death situation. If he will lose this campaign, you know what is waiting for him. It's lawsuits, cases, trials until the rest of his life, really. So that's his only chance to avoid all that, at least partially for sure, is to win the presidency. So for that, he has to mobilize whatever part of brain that he still has alive, all his advisors, everything at his possession to win it. He has to mobilize, first of all, when you're saying that election will be decided in 6 or 7 swing states, that's not true. Trump may decide this election by using Proud Boys and Oath Keepers and others. That's what may decide the presidency. And
That'll make America great again, and what make us great again is getting out of here because we're at the hour. But we want to thank our panelists from around the world, and we'll see you tomorrow on World Edition. Everybody off the air.